After 2 decades of development, the James Webb Space Telescope is complete. It's tested, it's finished, and as of today, it has shipped to the Guiana Space Center to be launched on December 18th. It arrived after sailing from its final assembly point in Redondo Beach, California. The James Webb Space Telescope, or JWST, is too large now to fit into a C5 Galaxy or indeed any cargo aircraft. So it had to literally be shipped on the ocean from Redondo Beach, California, through the Panama Canal, the Caribbean Sea, and down to Kourou, French Guiana. Webb set sail at the end of September on the MN Colibri, a French cargo ship that ESA frequently uses to ship spacecraft down to French Guiana. She was last seen on vesselfinder.com after she cleared the Panama Canal, but it also showed her destination as Nantes, France, arriving on October 18th. There were no further updates of her position once she cleared the canal. All of this obfuscation was intentional. NASA deliberately kept the shipment a secret as part of their efforts to stifle piracy. Seriously, pirates. Now, personally, I thought that was a silly idea. I mean, what are the pirates going to do? Steal Webb, launch it to L2, and make their own observations? They'd never get past peer review. In any event, a lot has happened since our last update back in the spring. Now, back then, the project team were carrying out the remaining steps needed to get Webb ready for shipment, and there were some concerns about whether or not the Ariane 5 launch vehicle would be able to safely launch the telescope. So today I thought we'd talk about what they did with JWST over the summer, how they got it ready for shipment, and what is next now that it's safely arrived at French Guiana. But first, I should note that JWST is often touted as the successor to the Hubble Space Telescope. Well, Hubble is designed to work in the visible part of the spectrum, but JWST is designed to work in the near to mid-infrared. It's this infrared capability that lets Webb go beyond what Hubble has done previously. I'll talk more about how JWST works in an upcoming video, but in the meantime, you can learn more about Webb in a series called Space, the New Frontier, which is available on Magellan TV, who I'd like to thank for sponsoring today's video. Modern technology is better than ever, and our will to explore the universe is forever pressing. We've gotten better at guiding our satellites and landers, our telescopes are more powerful, and our knowledge of our own planet is growing. With these new and advanced tools, we can explore the new frontier like never before. This series, and many others like it, are available on Magellan TV, which is home to more than 3,000 documentaries on nature, history, science, and technology. New documentaries are added each week and are presented without commercial interruption. If you like the content here on Launchpad Astronomy, then I think you'll be pleased to know that Magellan is offering my viewers a full month of their award-winning content absolutely free. Just make sure to use the link in the description of this video. Because Webb is far larger than any launch vehicle, it has to be folded up in order to fit into the rocket's fairing. But folding a $10 billion observatory is no small feat at all. It's got to be done carefully and methodically to ensure that there's no chance of any contamination or inadvertent damage or anything that might prevent the telescope from operating properly. So the fold-up process would take months of folding up just one part of the telescope, inspecting and testing everything to make sure nothing went wrong anywhere, only then to move on to fold up the next part and then inspect and test everything all over again. In May 2021, the team completed its final deployment tests of Webb's 2 mirror wings. They were both stowed and locked into place by the end of the month. This was followed by the final raising of the Deployable Tower Assembly, or DTA, in early June. Now, by this time, Webb's secondary mirror structure was already stowed, and its sunshield was folded into their fore and aft pallets. But before the sunshield pallets could be stowed for launch, the telescope's lens cap had to be removed. The cover was on the front of the Aft Optical System, or AOS. It houses the tertiary and fine steering mirrors that send light off to the instruments. The AOS's cover was there to prevent any stray light or anything else from getting inside while they were working on the telescope. So, on June 7th, one man had the coolest job in the entire world. He flew up to the AOS while riding a diving board raised on a super tall forklift. After inspecting everything, he carefully removed the cover. Like everything else with Webb, this had to be done with extreme care and precision, and everything had to be inspected and cleaned afterward to avoid any contamination. But this was a huge milestone. With that done, JWST's fore and aft pallets were initially raised up, then the DTA tower was stowed and locked into place, and the pallets were finally closed and locked into place for the last time on Earth. On August 26, NASA announced that JWST was finally complete, tested, and stowed in its launch configuration. The next time it unfolds itself will be in space. Prior to its departure, the folded JWST was packed into the Space Telescope Transporter for Air, Road, and Sea, otherwise known as STARS. STARS is essentially a mobile clean room designed to protect Webb from rain, wind, humidity, temperature changes, and even vibrations during transport. Now, STARS was last used in 2018 when the optical half of Webb was shipped from the Johnson Space Flight Center in Houston to Northrop Grumman's High Bay in Redondo Beach. At the time, it barely fit into a C5 Galaxy. But after the optical telescope was mated to the sunshield and spacecraft bus, STARS had to be made even larger to accommodate the completed spacecraft. Now this time, Webb could no longer fit into any aircraft, and even if it could, it was now too heavy to cross the 7 bridges between the Guiana airport and the launch site. So Webb was driven to Seal Beach, California, and loaded onto the MN Colibri. Even that was a careful exercise. Once STARS was loaded into the ship's cargo hold, additional trailers with pressurized air were hooked up to feed a continuous supply of pristine dry air into the transporter's interior. These precautions allowed STARS to keep the contamination level inside the container down to no more than 100 particles that were a half a micron in size or larger. Now for reference, a half a micron is just 1% of the width of a human hair. Talk about running a clean ship. Sorry. Now that Webb has docked, the next step is to drive it over to the launch complex and get it into the receiving room and prepare it for its December 18 launch. Now, the December 18 launch date is obviously later than the October 31st launch date that was previously announced. And yes, it's hard to keep track, there have been so many delays. But to recap, NASA announced in July of 2020 that the launch was going to be delayed from March to October 31st due to the pandemic. But also in 2020, the Ariane 5 launch vehicle experienced anomalous vibrations during fairing separation on both of its launches. I covered these problems in detail in a previous video, so I won't repeat them all here. But in June 2021, Arianespace announced that they had in fact fixed the vibration problem. Now, as far as I could tell, there are no official announcements as to what the exact cause of the vibrations were. But on July 30th of this year, Arianespace had a nominal Ariane 5 launch and deployment of its payloads. NASA and ESA agreed that the Ariane 5 was once again cleared to launch James Webb. However, Arianespace still has a second launch of the Ariane 5 to complete before they can launch Webb. And this launch will put a commercial communications and a French military communications satellite into geostationary orbit. This second launch is scheduled for October 22nd. So if all goes well with the next launch, Webb will have its turn about 2 months later. That will allow enough time to get Webb ready to go. Ground crews will unpack Webb from its STARS transporter and run a series of aliveness tests to make sure it weathered its journey okay. Then they'll attach Webb to the payload adapter that will eventually mount atop the Ariane 5. Webb will then be fueled with a witch's brew of toxic hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide propellants. This is the fuel that Webb's thrusters will use to keep it on course to L2 and eventually maintain its orbit. After it's fueled, Webb will be moved to the rocket assembly building, stacked atop the Ariane 5, and enclosed in its launch fairing. The assembled rocket will roll out to the pad one day before launch. Meanwhile, controllers at Webb's command center in Baltimore are doing a final launch readiness exercise. And this will be their 6th and final dress rehearsal, after which they'll have practiced every step of observatory deployment and commissioning. So yeah, there's still a lot of work left to do. But let's just take a moment to mark this milestone. Webb is completely built, and it's passed all of its deployment tests. It left California as an assembled observatory for the first time, and it's not coming back. Next stop is the launch pad, and then L2, 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. Along the way, there's going to be a very long and complex series of more than 150 deployments just to get Webb unfolded and ready for science. I'm going to discuss those deployments and how Webb works in an upcoming video. But for now, I thought it would just be cool to appreciate all the hard work that thousands of people have put in over so many years to get to this point. It's getting real, and Webb is gonna launch. I'd also like to take a moment to appreciate my patrons for helping to keep Launchpad Astronomy going. And I'd like to welcome Garrett Lummel, Bill Kerr, and Owen for becoming my newest sponsors. And if you'd like to keep up with Webb's next steps and everything else going on in the universe, well, please make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new videos. Until next time, stay curious, my friend.